What's going on, everybody? My name is Aiden and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to be talking about another draft prospect in relation to the Chicago Bulls, and his name is Zach Edey, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully I said his name correctly, and we're going to be talking about whether or not he could be the right fit for the Chicago Bulls as a draft prospect. But before we get any further, if you like the video and you want to see more from me, drop a like, drop a follow, and or subscribe if you are new, and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about the Chicago Bulls and Zach Edey and whether or not you think this is the right fit. Is this a match made in heaven, essentially? Is this a great partnership that we could have between the organization and the player? So, let's talk about him. What's his position, his height, and stuff of that nature? Well, there's actually a lot that we could talk about here. So, he is a center, ladies and gentlemen. He's a big center as well. He's 7'4", and he weighs about 300 pounds, apparently, which is incredible from someone that, is a draft prospect, essentially. That's a mighty amount of weight, and 7'4" is a mighty amount of height as well. So you're going to get someone that's going to tower over most of the NBA right there. And his stats don't look that bad as well. He averages around, this season at least, 25 points per game, 12.2 rebounds with 2 assists, and his efficiency from the field should be good as a center and is good as a center, and that is 62.3% from the field. So quite a big chunk of, information there, ladies and gentlemen. So you're getting a center that's going to be tall, strong. You're going to get a center that is efficient around the rim at least, and you're getting a center that is also 22 years old. So look, age is a big thing here. We've drafted a lot of 19-year-olds at least from the NBA draft. And when you draft 19-year-olds, there's going to be room for improvement. There's going to be, places where they're going to have to develop, right? Because by the time they're 22, they're going to be in the NBA for at least 3 seasons, and then you could hopefully see some development from there. Some people like to go down the younger route, drafting 19-year-olds, hoping they could be better and better and better by the time they're 22 or 23. And there's also players that like to spend their time in college, learn their craft, improve their craft at the college level, so when they get to the NBA level, they are ready to make an impact from the very beginning. Could be something that we're looking at in this regard with Zach Edey. He's 22 years old, so he could potentially have built his craft in college, improved every season. His statistics have always increased, and therefore, he's ready to make an impact at the NBA level. This could definitely be something that we could keep our eyes on, ladies and gentlemen, in that regard. So, a lot of good details. So, let's now discuss those strengths and those weaknesses that he has to his game. Well, obviously, as I mentioned, the height and weight advantage is going to be phenomenal. I feel like any team that picks him, no matter where it is at the moment, is going to have that as a factor, especially on the defensive end. This guy, ladies and gentlemen, averages around 2.2 blocks per game this season, so he's a rim protector. And look, when you're that height, you don't even have to try, essentially. It's like Wembanyama. He doesn't have to try to get most of the blocks that he gets. The fact of the matter is, because of the height that he has on his side, he's able to just get blocks left, right, and center with that wingspan. It kind of feels very similar with Zach Edey. 7'4", 300 pounds. He's not going to be bullied by most players in the NBA, and he's not going to get bullied by guards, so he doesn't really have to try to get those amounts of blocks, which is a positive in my opinion. So he can block shots. He's got the good height and weight advantage. He is decent around the rim. From what I've seen from highlights, he can finish around the rim in terms of post moves, and of course he can dunk, he can catch lobs. So those are all interesting factors, and something we'll have to wait and see if it can develop even further at the NBA level. So he's comfortable around the paint, and he is a good rebounder. He averages 12.2 rebounds per game, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I don't care how slow, how, maybe movement-wise could be an issue. Those things we'll talk about in the weaknesses section, but rebounding, in my opinion, can translate over to the NBA level, especially with that height that he has. So I expect him to be a great rebounder at the NBA level, just as much as I expect him to be a great rebounder at the college level as well. Looking at some of the weaknesses that he has, well, biggest weakness here, he can't spread the floor. And ultimately, in the modern NBA, especially from someone that's going to go in the lottery, if we're going to pick him in the lottery, we need someone that can do a lot of things. We need someone that can make an instant impact right away. And not being able to shoot the 3, not being able to shoot a mid-range could be a problem. Could be a very big problem. And it could, again, considering that we don't have a good three-point shooting team anyway, you get a center that can't shoot a three on this team. All of a sudden, the defense gets a little bit more tighter around the rim. It gets a little bit more comfortable playing a zone. So those are things you have to keep in mind when you're selecting your next draft prospect. He may be too slow when it comes to guarding quicker centers and also guarding guards. Now look, Billy Donovan likes to switch 1 through 5. Zach Edey is a 7'4", 300-pound center. I know there are highlights out there where he's keeping up with guards like No Tomorrow. That is not what it's going to be like at the NBA level. These guards are too quick, too crafty, and work on their game for years upon years upon years to be beaten by a rookie center. And that's going to be a problem. So when we switch 1 through 5, he's going to have problems keeping up with those guys. And even quicker centers, like players, for example, Chet Holmgren, for example, someone that can spread the floor and use his quickness to get to the rim. That is going to be hard to defend more times than not for a guy like Zach Edey at the NBA level. You got to keep those things in mind when you're making your selection. So yes, he can block shots. He can get 1 or 2 blocks per game for the Bulls in this team, considering the minutes that he may get. But he also might struggle guarding the perimeter. He also might struggle guarding guards and guarding those quicker centers who don't have that amount of weight. You know, Chet is 7'2", but he doesn't have 300 pounds on him. So he can move a little bit quicker compared to maybe some different centers in the league. So, for example, if you're guarding a guy like Valanciunas, who is, a pretty physical guy, I could see a guy like Zach Edey doing, holding his own against a center like that. But quicker centers around the league, even small ball centers, I could see that being a big issue for him. Moving on. This is something that I've seen from articles. Apparently, he doesn't have that great of a left hand when it comes to his post game. So, the biggest reason why I think that's a problem is that if he has no left hand, he will become predictable in the post. So, there's either 2 ways that this can go. A, he improves his ability to score with his left hand, ability to use his post moves with his left hand. I think that's very achievable. So I'm not going to really put that against him massively, because you may be very strong with your right hand, which clearly he is. He shot 62% from the field. The left hand can be improved upon. So I'm not worried about that. That could take a couple of seasons, and then all of a sudden it won't be an issue. But if he can't improve on his left hand, he will become very predictable in the post. The post game, a lot of it is trying to outsmart your defender. You can bring the physicality, sure. Physicality would be a great thing in the post. But if you're getting those bigger centers and you're trying to really post up, you're going to need more moves than just a right-handed post hook. If he can't shoot a fadeaway jump shot, if he can't face up and shoot, and he definitely can't use his left, he will become very predictable, and therefore scoring opportunities will become too and far between. He won't be averaging 25 points per game at the NBA level if he's got no left hand in the post. So those are the things that do strike me as big weaknesses on behalf of Zach Edey. But you got to also remember, when it comes to situations like this, you're picking 11th in a weak draft, you're always going to find weaknesses with a player. It's about finding the right player. So does he fit a need for the Bulls? I do think he does. He does fit the rim protection side of things. We also have fears of potentially losing Andre Drummond, and I believe Nikola Vucevic could potentially be up for trade. So we do need center help, and I do think Zach Edey will fit a need for the Bulls in certain areas. There's also been a lot of talk that he's risen up in terms of the draft combine. Apparently, he had a fantastic draft combine, and that's allowed him to go a couple of spots. However, the NBA Draft Room website does suggest he'll go mid first round to late second. So he's going to be a player we're going to have to take a chance on. Most likely, he'll be available with the 11th overall pick. It's someone you're going to have to take the risk on in hopes that his potential outweighs the risks that he may take. It's not like Cody Williams, for example, where there's a good chance he'll be off the board by the time we become available. Zach Edey will most likely be available by then. So do you take the risk on him? Oh, it's a tough answer. It's a tough answer. Because there are centers that have dominated at the college level before. You look at the numbers and they're fantastic. But when you look at the NBA, they just don't belong at the NBA level. There are a lot of centers like that in this league. Do I see him being one of those players? Potentially. I potentially see him as one of those players that can work really, really well in terms of college, but maybe not so at the NBA with how so dynamic centers are these days. But I don't mind taking a chance on him. So is he my first option? Probably not. Is he a guy I'm willing to take a chance on? Absolutely. What do you think? And I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay tuned for more. Take care, and peace.